What's up, y'all? This is Sean Anthony, and we are getting ready to sit down with comedian Andrew Ford. We're going to talk about his entire career, how he opened the first Black-owned comedy club in the state of Ohio, and so much more. You will be entertained. Oh, by the way, subscribe to the YouTube channel, Sean Anthony Live. Come on, let's check it out. Welcome to Sean Anthony Live, and I am very excited about my next guest, a legend in Columbus, Ohio, Mr. Andrew Ford, man. Welcome to the show, man.
How you doing, man?
I've been knowing this gentleman for a very, very long time. I first met Andrew at the beginning of my radio career, but we'll get into all of that, man. But first, man, how have you been? How's everything going?
Man, life is good, man. Life is good. You know,
you look good.
If we can get rid of this COVID disease, we'll be all right. You know? But other than that, you know, life is good.
So let's start from the beginning, Andrew. Are you from Columbus?
No, actually, I'm from Michigan. I came here to go to college, and after I finished college, I had a job in corporate America, and then I started the Comedy Stopp after that, after I got tired of corporate America. So I'm actually from Michigan.
I did not know that.
Yeah.
What part?
A small town up in Michigan, man, Muskegon, Grand Rapids area.
Okay.
My dad used to have a grocery store up there, and I used to work at the grocery store on the weekends.
Really?
And when I graduated, I came down here to go to school.
So while you were here in Ohio going to school, were you doing comedy at that point, or when did that whole thing transpire?
Well, when I started going to college down here, I had a friend of mine that dared me to go to this comedy club to get on stage and tell jokes. And he said on Sunday nights they give you $25 for the funniest person. He said, I'll do it if you do it. So I was like, shoot, come on, yeah, let's do that.
Right.
So I wound up going up there. He went up there, but he chickened out. But I didn't. I went ahead and did it, and I didn't do too bad. And I kept coming back every Sunday. And about the third or fourth Sunday, I won the $25.
Okay. Now, around what year was this? Do you remember the year?
This was early 80s.
Okay.
Early 80s when this was going down. And I was in college, and I was going up there doing some jokes on the weekends. And,
yeah.
You know.
So is that when you started to develop as a comedian?
Yeah.
Okay.
Because I started going every Sunday, working on my jokes and going on stage in front of people. And I started getting better and better. Then the comedy club started asking me to host the professional shows on the weekends. So I was like, they saying, we'll pay you this amount of money. So I was like, what? So I was just like pumped about that they started hiring me, and I was making like, I think it was like $275 for Friday and Saturday.
Wow.
That's all it was.
And did you have any kind of mentorship at the time were there any other comedians in the city that helped you, gave you some tips and stuff? And what were those tips?
Well, the thing about it is in Columbus, and later on, I found other parts of the country, they had urban comedy clubs. But in Columbus, we didn't have any black comedy clubs.
Okay.
So the comedy club that I started in was a majority white comedy club. So I was just kind of trial and error on what I thought worked and what didn't work. So I just kind of went from there. I'll tell you a funny story. I had been working at white comedy clubs, every Sunday, and sometimes they hired me on the weekends. And then this guy asked me one time to open up at the Newport for this group called War. Okay. And that's the first time I've ever been booed. Oh. And it was nasty.
It was nasty?
It was nasty, boy. They booed the heck out of me. But the reason why they booed me was because I didn't know how to work no black rooms. Oh, okay. The only clubs that I'd ever worked were white audiences. And anybody that's ever done comedy knows that white audiences are very different from black audiences. You know?
What was the valuable lesson that you learned when you first got booed, and how big was that audience?
It was the Newport. The Newport hold like what, 800 people?
Maybe more than that.
Yeah. And it was, I would never forget, the group was War. Yeah, if anybody remember War, the world is a ghetto, don't you know?
Okay.
That is, war.
Okay. I believe you.
That's war, man. That's grown folks music.
So they booed you. Do you remember what the set was about? What jokes didn't work? Do you remember?
You know what? The thing is, and that was a valuable lesson during that period of time. I hadn't mastered, see, and that's another lesson that I later found out. Doing a comedy club, not only the color of the people in the audience, but doing a comedy club is very different from doing a concert venue. That's very different.
Right.
You know, you don't get the same, the lights are in your eyes.
Yeah.
You can't necessarily see the audience.
It's not intimate.
So it's very different, and I was blown away by all of that because I was new in the game. I didn't know it.
So tell me about the emotions that you went through after getting booed when you walked off the stage. How did you cope with that?
I felt like, how can I put it? I felt like I should go out the back door. That's how I felt. Okay. I felt I should go out the back door. I definitely did not feel like I should go out into the audience and be like, yeah, I was on a show.
Right.
Definitely didn't feel like that. I felt like I should go out the back door. That's how I felt. I remember it was a heck of an experience, but the only thing about it, experience sometimes is the best teacher.
How did you rebound from that? Like, the next week, did you go back into the comedy club?
Well, I tell you what I started doing, and like I said, there was no urban rooms around in Columbus to work, and I was still in college at the time. And I just kept doing the club that I had been doing, and I just kept on doing it. And every now and then, an opportunity would come up to work an audience that looked like me, and I would do it, and I would seem like I would do a little bit better. But years passed, and this is years past, I get the opportunity to, I just wanted to start working with a black audience, right? I wanted to be able to make my people laugh as opposed to just making white people laugh. Nothing wrong with making white people laugh, but I wanted to be able to make everybody laugh. So, but in order to be able to do that, you got to work out with an audience too that look like you. And I never forget, I started going to this place called the CNS.
Oh, the CNS Lounge.
They used to have a talent night on Tuesday night.
That was on Mount Vernon, right?
And I tell people, no, it was on Fifth Avenue.
Fifth Avenue, I'm sorry. I'm
And,
thinking of the Marble Gang.
And matter of fact, they had a talent night on Tuesday night, and I never forget, that helped me to start developing and getting a comfort level for a black audience. Because when I started going, I wasn't doing that well, but then after I got to going, I started doing better and better and better. And anybody know about the CNS? Who's the real brother in the CNS?
Yeah, I used to call it the cut and stab.
Yeah. But they used to have a very...
I was too young for it, but that's what I heard.
They used to have a very popular Tuesday night. It was just talent.
Really?
People used to come in there and sing. People come in there and dance. Okay. I was like the only comedian, I think, that would come in there. But that helped me to develop as a urban comedian.
Did you ever go on the road and tour or do like the Chitlin circuit?
Not at that point.
Okay.
No, not at that point. I had finished, at that point, somewhere in there, I had finished college and I got a job in corporate America, so I was working my corporate gig. So
how did you learn how to write jokes and prepare for stand-up? After you've been doing this now, you did the white clubs, now you're in the neighborhoods and doing black audiences. Did you ever, learn how to develop, to write and prepare your jokes?
Well, one thing I learned about doing comedy, the best jokes are jokes that are about real situations, real life. So that's what I wrote jokes about. I mean, I just write about my mom, my dad, dating. The best jokes are about real situations and real experiences. So I just kind of write, from that, being growing up poor, getting evicted. My dad wouldn't pay no bills. We get up, the car gone in the morning. I write real jokes about stuff that was real, So when was it when you decided to open up a comedy club? I opened up a comedy club after I finished college and I got a job in corporate America. working with Xerox and in sales. And I was pretty good at it. I think I was pretty successful at it. I started making money. You know, when you come out of school, you start making money for the first time. You'd be like, well, you get a new car, you get an apartment, you got money in the bank.
Right.
And I did that for 5 years, and I did pretty well, but I just got tired of the corporate thing. Mm-hmm. I got tired of the corporate thing, and I was doing comedy still, but just on my vacation was I doing comedy. Like
okay.
like when in the corporate world, you get like a 1 or 2 week vacation.
Mm-hmm.
I would take my vacation days and I would go do a room in a comedy club in Chicago or in Michigan or sometime even here in Columbus. Mm-hmm. And I would do that, but I didn't like, the thing was about that, even though I was unsatisfied with the corporate world, I was also very disappointed in the treatment that I was getting from the white comedy clubs. Mm. One in particular was here in Columbus, and I was just, I didn't like the treatment,
Right.
I didn't like the treatment, so I wind up, I started, I was telling a friend of mine, I was like, man, I think I'm gonna open up my own comedy club. And I never forget, this guy told me that. He's still a comedian to this day. He told me, he said, man, if you open that comedy club, this comedy club that's here in Columbus, he said, they're not gonna book you no more. I said, fool, if I open up my comedy club, I ain't gonna need them to not book me no more. But he was right about one thing. They damn sure didn't book me no more.
Right. Yeah.
They damn sure didn't book me no more.
So how hard was it to get that up and running, the comedy?
Well,
because it was called the Comedy Stop, right?
Right.
And why did you name it the Comedy Stop?
I just came up with that name. Actually, it was called Andrew Ford's Comedy Stop. And the Comedy Stop, I just came up with that name. I think I got the idea for the club. I was in Atlanta one time. And even though Atlanta and Los Angeles and New York, they've had urban comedy clubs for years.
Right.
But here in Columbus, we didn't have it.
So yours was the first black comedy club
in the state of Ohio.
In the state of Ohio.
Right, and one of the only ones in the Midwest.
Wow.
So
I think that, let's let that breathe for a minute, man. I think that's worthy, man, of mentioning, because prior to that, I didn't know. I thought it was the first one in Columbus. I didn't know Ohio, the whole state.
No, man. It's one thing about it. Sometimes I think we're pushed. We can look at a situation and it'll be a blessing in disguise.
Right.
Things happen for a reason. I mean, situations light fire under us to make a move. And I really believe that was my situation to make me make a move. I didn't like how I was being treated in the white comedy clubs here in Columbus, and we had some falling outs. So I decided I was going to start looking for a space to start an urban comedy club. And I remember doing like some research with some people in the community, asking them about, do they go to comedy clubs? And I remember one dude telling me, he was with his girl. He said, man, black people don't go to comedy clubs. And I said, you're right. I said, but I'm gonna start the kind of comedy club to bring the kind of comedians that's gonna make you wanna go to the comedy club, that's gonna make you laugh. So the reason why, he was right, the reason why black people weren't going to comedy clubs was because the white comedy clubs here in this town weren't catering to us, right, and they weren't booking comedians that you wanted to see.
Right.
So therefore, no, he was right. But I said, I'm gonna bring a venue and have like a live DJ and have the setting set up, and I'm gonna bring in the kind of comedians that are gonna be edgy and real life, and they're gonna make you laugh. And sure enough, that changed the dynamic of options for our urban community to do. Before, if you was gonna take your girl out, you was gonna maybe do the movies, y'all gonna go to a bar, y'all gonna go out to eat, something like that. That was pretty much it. But after I brought the Comedy Stop, I gave you a fourth option, another option, let's go to a comedy club. Before I opened the Comedy Stop, that option wasn't really there on a regular basis. Not only did I open the comedy club, you know, for me to perform to an urban audience, but I opened a comedy club for other comedians to have a venue to work also. Because what some people don't know is, back when I had my comedy club, the only venues that people like Bruce and Lavelle Crawford and Cheryl Underwood and T.K. Kirkland and D.L. Hughley and Mike Bonner and some of those other, Chris Thomas, some of them other comedians, the only ones they could really work was venues like mine. You know, they weren't welcome at a lot of the white clubs around the country. Yeah. So, you know, I opened it up not only for me, but for them to work. Right. You know, Cedric the Entertainer, those guys are welcome now at some of the mainstream clubs. But back when I had my club, those doors were not open to them. So I'm just keeping it real. So
you were a trailblazer.
And if you ever talk to them, if they being honest, they will say, he right. So that's why everybody used to float to my club. Mike Epps.
I met them all.
Cedric the Entertainer.
Yeah.
Ricky Smiley. Cheryl Underwood, Samoa, T.K. Kirkland. I even had Chris Rock come through. The Bruce. The list goes.
Steve.
See who?
Steve Harvey.
I never got Steve, man. I used to try to get Steve, but Steve was always way too expensive back when I had my club. Okay. So I really pride myself on putting money into a lot of comedians' pockets that needed it at the time. Right. Because venues were limited where they could work. Right. Definitely. I mean, they can work everywhere now, but back then, they get their child support, rent paid, and car note paid. They had to come through places like the Comedy Stopp, all jokes aside, in Chicago. They go to Atlanta and work. There's a few spots like that, but that was about it.
So let's.
So it wasn't just about me. It was about the urban comedy market.
Now I want to go into when I first met you, because by this time you've had the comedy club, the Comedy Stopp, and you had a name bubbling in the city. You get partnered up with Chuck at the name. At that time his name was Chuck Patterson.
Right.
And y'all had the Chuck and Andrew morning show on Power 106.3.
Right, exactly, which I enjoyed very much.
And I was an intern for you guys.
Exactly.
I was the morning show producer. That was the first time I met you.
You were a young buck.
I was very young. What was your first impression of me?
Oh man, somebody that was eager and wasn't cocky, didn't know it all. I just got the impression you was very easy to work with, but eager to learn new stuff. You know, to learn the radio business. That's the impression I got from you.
And a lot of people don't know, working with you, because I also worked for you too. You had me doing some stuff, but I'll let you share that. But I learned a lot from you as well. You know, I learned a lot from Chuck when it came to, you know, the fundamentals of radio. But being with you and in your comedy club at a young age, being around all of these comedians and being with you, I learned timing and how to set up things for the radio, and just, you know, being able to lure an audience in through telling a story, what have you, to get to a punchline. I learned a lot of that stuff. I attribute that to you. I took some of those skills and attributes and tied it into my radio career, man. So for that, I want to say thank you.
Thanks, man. Thank you, man. Thank you. I mean, no problem, man. I appreciate that compliment, man. Because some people don't know, doing morning radio is a lot different from doing stand-up on stage. Yeah. It's a lot different. Some people don't know that.
Yeah. Was it hard for you coming from the stage to go on the radio?
It was more like a natural thing for me because
Chuck is a radio guy.
Yeah.
Like, you know.
Chuck was the button person, and I was the one over there talking trash on the radio, you know. And so we kind of complimented each other, which really worked out well. But I mean, one thing about the morning radio thing, you know, like I said, it's the person on the board, operating the board, is just as important as the side piece. I was like a J. Anthony Brown on the show. If you know who J. Anthony Brown is.
Yeah.
That's what I was. I was like a J. Anthony Brown on the show.
Tom Joyner's co-host, right?
Yeah, Tom Joyner's former co-host.
Right.
Co-host.
Yeah.
And I mean, I used to enjoy doing that morning radio thing. And the way I got into it was when I had my comedy club, I had worked out a deal with them to bring the comedians up there on Friday mornings. You know, because it would be like I said, the comedians would be funny. You know, I'd come in there with Bruce, I'd come in there with Cheryl Underwood and Chris Rock and Ted Carpenter, and the list goes on. And so the GM at the time, and he enjoyed
that was
Vince Fugay.
Yeah.
And he enjoyed my comedy also.
Rest in peace to Vince. We lost him a year or two ago, I think.
Did he pass away?
Yeah, man.
I thought last time I talked to him, he was at Indianapolis.
Yeah, Donnie Simpson posted something on his Instagram maybe about a year ago. But I was young. I was an intern, but I remember Mr. Fugay passed away.
I did not know that he passed away.
Really?
Wow, man, this is a crazy time.
Yeah, it happened maybe, if not a year ago, maybe 2 years ago. I'll get back and check, but yeah, I remember seeing it on Donnie Simpson's page, and I forgot about him, you know what I'm saying? But when Donnie Simpson posted, I was like, wait a minute. I remember Mr. Fugay. I remember, you know, at the old building on Mound Street, that's where the radio station used to be. And yeah, man. Yep.
Yeah, I like I said, I talked to him about 3 years ago. That was the last time I spoke with him. But I did not know that he passed away. But what happened was I would bring the comedians in there on Fridays, and Vince liked my flow on the radio also, and he asked me to join the morning show.
So that was his idea.
Yeah, he called me up one day. He said, Andrew, I'd like to talk to you about becoming a member of the morning show. And I remember thinking, I was like, man, I got this comedy club. I'm doing some concert dates on the road. I'm doing more TV shows like Apollo and Def Jam and Comic View, and I had done a little movie at the time. I said, man, I don't know if I got time to do no morning radio, but after I thought about it, I was like, yeah, man, I think that'd be smooth to do and fun.
Yeah.
The only thing I didn't like about it, man, you get up at the crack of dawn to do that morning radio show.
Yeah, you do, man.
At the crack of dawn, rain, snow, sleet, or shine.
It don't matter,
It's but I really enjoyed it. I really enjoyed being part of the morning show. And if I say so myself, I thought I was, and from the feedback I got from the community, I think I was pretty good at it.
Yeah. How long
I
did that
enjoyed
last?
doing that.
I don't remember because, you know, I was in high school still when I was interning for you guys. How long did the show last? How long did you guys?
I think the Chuck and Andrew show was on for about, I want to say, it was at least a year, over a year.
Okay.
About a year and a half.
About a year and a half.
About a year and a half, yeah. But we had a good time, man. We used to have a good time. I mean, when the comedians came up on Friday, we would have a good time. But me and Chuck would have a good time Monday through Friday also.
Yeah.
Just in there talking about, you know, whatever.
How is your relationship with Chuck now? Have you guys spoke?
You know what? I ran into Chuck not too long ago, and
he goes by Chuck Douglas now on
Chuck got a few names on the radio, man.
Yeah.
I thought it was something else.
When you guys were together, it was Chuck Patterson.
Right.
Today is Chuck Douglas.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, he just goes by Chuck Douglas.
So I ran into Chuck somewhere, man. I can't remember where it was, and we talked for a little bit. But every now and then I'll hear him on the talk radio show.
Yeah, you hear him on 610 now.
I listen on the talk radio show sometime, and but we haven't had a whole lot of contact since the radio show.
How is your relationships now with comedians overall? Are you still in contact? How active are you in the comedy field?
Well, you know, I mean, you got some comedians that are still friends. How should I answer this?
Well, let me be a little bit more specific. Do you have any issues with anyone? I don't know what the story is, but tell me what your relationship is with Gary Owen.
Gary Owen?
Yeah.
Why you mentioned Gary Owen, Oliver?
I don't know. Maybe I'll just be a little bit more direct.
You've done some research, man. You've done some research.
I may have done a little bit, but
tell
the viewer out there that
the only problem that Gary and I had was When I had my comedy club and Gary first came on the scene working at Comic View, a lot of the comedians weren't trying to give him no love because he's white. And they didn't really feel like he deserved that position on Comic View because he wasn't the funniest. Or, you know, some of that might be true. But I rolled up on him. I said, yo, man, I got a comedy club. I was doing Comic View in LA. I said, man, I got a comedy club out in Ohio. You should come out there and get down if you want to. You know, so we worked it out, and he came out there and did the show. He wasn't hilarious. The turnout wasn't great. But nevertheless, you know, a lot of comedians weren't really trying to mess with him. But I let him come out there and get out. Now, fast forward several years, when he working at the comedy club here in town, I mean, word got back to me that he was on stage trying to dog me.
Really?
And I gave him a shot. I was like, are you serious? So we had a little, we had a little word exchange from that, but you know, I talked to Charlemagne, the goddamn, about it, and you know, it went across the country a little bit on it, but you know, it was no big deal. It was no big deal. I was a little disappointed that he came out and hit me like that, especially for no reason. I think some people may have put him up to it. I don't know. But anyway, I just don't. I'm the type of person. I'm genuine, man. You know, if I'm your friend, I'm your friend. You know, if we doing business, we doing business.
What about Eddie Griffen?
Eddie Griffen? Eddie Griffen is I don't have a problem with Eddie Griffen.
Okay.
We had a little snag with some money back when he worked my club. That's because he missed some shows and I docked him and he got upset about it, but that's business.
Okay.
You got to be professional and show up. But you know, we had a little rift there with him, with me having to dock him some money for missing a couple shows. But Eddie is cool. I've seen Eddie several times since working at Comedy Stopp. And you know how Eddie is. You know, when I see Eddie, man, you owe me some money, man. You owe me some money, man.
He would still say the same thing.
He be tripping, man. He be on some stuff, man.
So for any aspiring entrepreneurs out there that, you know, may be considering opening up a comedy club, what kind of advice would you give them in today's climate?
I mean, well, not just a comedy club, but just any kind of business in general. If you got an idea, get you a plan and move on it. You know, do your research and move on it. You know what they say? Some of the best ideas are in the graveyard. Mm-hmm. I mean, some people have ideas, but they never act on them.
Right.
They never act on them. So I just kind of, you know, pride myself on, I had the idea and it wasn't perfect, but I felt like I moved on it.
Before we wrap up, there's a couple of things I want to get in. How did you get on to Def Comedy Jam and BET's Comic View? Because that, in the 90s, man, getting on Def Comedy Jam, that was a big deal. That was the emergence, I believe, of black comedy. You know,
and the same with Comic View.
Yeah, and with black comedians getting their notoriety and the popularity began to rise. How were you able to get on the Def Comedy Jam? Because I remember you had a big citywide party,
right? A viewing party, and my little young teenage behind, I'm in there, you know, setting up and helping with the music and all of that stuff. I'll never forget that, man. But how did that happen? Well, the way that happened was, and I'll take you back a little bit. Remember when I told you I had to learn how to do black audiences? Yeah. That's when I was really working at the CNS every Tuesday trying to work my plan, right? Every Tuesday I was trying to work my plan to get my jokes right. And during that same time, and I had already opened a comedy club when Def Jam hit. Mm-hmm. I had already opened my comedy club. And I had been on stage working my jokes also at my own club. And then Def Jam was holding auditions, and they was going around to all the black comedy clubs, and my club was new at the time, so they didn't come here at that time, not that particular time, but they had an audition in Detroit, so I figured I was ready, you know. So I went to Detroit and auditioned, and about 2 weeks later, I got a call from a guy named Bob Summer, which was talent coordinator for Def Comedy Jam. And he said, we'd like to fly you to New York and do HBO Def Comedy Jam. And I almost passed out. And so I wind up, so that's when and I was on the radio at the time too. So that's why I decided to do like a citywide viewing party and all that. And so I wound up flying to New York and filming the show. Well, when I went to Detroit, I did the audition, I told you that. They called me and they flew me to New York, picked me up in a limo and put me up in a hotel suite in Manhattan.
What was that audition like? I mean, obviously you succeeded, you know, but did you know that you made it after that audition, or were you uncertain?
No, what they did was the producers, which was the talent coordinator, which is Bob Sumner and some of his assistants, they set up a venue with some people and
tell me a joke.
And one at a
time. Make me laugh.
one at a time, they, you know, comedian number 2, you know, you go up there and you tell your jokes and they film it and they go back and look at it and say, yay, nay, maybe, I don't know. But fortunately, they thought I was funny enough to come to New York and get on Def Comedy Jam. I never forget though, the day I was filming, New York, that was my first experience really performing in front of a New York audience.
Really?
And I'd been in New York before, but that was the first time I ever performed in front of that kind of audience. And I remember the hotel they put us up in was like right across the street. And they make you, and you walk across the street to the Academy Theater or down the street to the Academy Theater and go in the stage door, and you got a little dressing room, and then, you know, you get ready to go on stage with Martin and all them. And I remember I was walking from the hotel, and I'm carrying my bag or my clothes I was gonna wear, and you gotta walk past a long line of people getting in to see the show. And I never forget that New York audience, man, while I was walking, they was like, he don't even look funny. Look at him. What the hell? He don't even look, oh man, let's get ready to, but he ain't, you know he ain't even, but you know what I'm saying? Just long line of just all these comments.
Wow.
Before, and you walk in and you go around to the stage door and you show them the pass and they let you in. But that was a heck of an experience there, man. And then I walk in there, I'm looking over there, I see Martin Lawrence, I see Bernie Mac, I'm looking over here, I see Eddie Griffen, I'm seeing. So it was a heck of an experience.
What was your life like after Def Comedy Jam? With that kind of exposure?
That's one thing I really wasn't quite, I didn't really know what to expect. But after I did Def Comedy Jam, everywhere that I went, and still sometimes to this day, people were like, hey, you that comedian dude that was on such and such. You know, I mean, I could be like, not just here, but I could be in the airport in Carolina. I could be in Chicago. I could be Detroit. I'd be in LA or whatever.
They remember you.
Texas. They'd be like, you that comedian dude that came out with that colorful jacket on. You had a colorful jacket on then. It's wild how people come up to you and be like, I tell you your jokes and tell you what you had on.
Yeah.
You be sitting there and say, yeah, I had it on. That was my jacket. Yeah, that was a joke I told. Yeah.
That's cool, man.
But I mean, so, and then that really made the comedy club that I owned at the time popular too.
Okay. So
it made it real popular. You had people in other states that had relatives here. They would call them up and say, hey, I want to come to that comedy club y'all got up there. That comedian that was on Def Jam. You know, so they would come to town and they would bring them to the comedy club. So
now I know, before we wrap up, I know you do some community outreach, you do some speaking and things.
Oh yeah, I do some
to talk about some of the things that you do, you know, giving back to the city of Columbus.
I mean, I got a passion to speak life to young people. I got a talk that I do. I talk to junior high school students and high school students, and I talk to them about believing in themselves, the power of being focused in the direction that you're going, and expanding your vision on life. And the last school that I spoke at was Mifflin Middle School. I talked to some kids there, had a great time, and I really felt like I got a good message off to them. Because sometimes kids in our community, they can't see past the street they grew up on. You know what I'm saying? It's difficult for them to see past Cleveland Avenue, past Livingston Avenue, past Gahanna, past Morse Road. But I like to talk to them about expanding their vision on life and believing in themselves. And don't be afraid to pursue your goals.
Yeah.
You know, if you have something that you want to do, I mean, pull together a good solid plan and pursue it.
Right.
And pursue it. You only got one life. You got the Martin Lawrence said you got to ride the wheels on this mud till the wheels fall off.
Right.
You know, don't be afraid. Make the move. You know?
Andrew, man, I really appreciate, you taking the time for us to get together. The reason why I wanted to do this, like I told you several months ago when we had met up, that I wanted to be able to have an opportunity. You see, right now in today's culture, it's all about giving people their flowers today while they're still here. And, I think it's important for people of Columbus to know that you were the first owner of a comedy club, not just in Columbus, but in the state of Ohio.
Well, you got to say owner of the first urban black comedy club.
Okay.
In Ohio, not the owner of the first comedy club.
I didn't say that. First black owner, right?
Black-owned comedy club in Ohio. You know, that a lot of comedians got a check from.
But that's something that needs to be documented, number one, and recognized, man. So we salute you.
I appreciate you giving me my flowers, man, because a lot of the comedians, man, I'm a comedian myself. A lot of the comedians, they had a tendency to forget about that kind of stuff.
Yeah. Well, here's a chance for them to be reminded. Go ahead, man. Talk your stuff. Is there anything else you want to let the people know, about Mr. Andrew Ford? Anything you got coming up in the future?
I said it, it's, nobody knows what the future is hold. I got a few things coming down the pike right now that's really not ready to be revealed yet.
Okay.
And I'm an entrepreneur. I dibble and dabble in the car business, and anybody out there looking for a good solid motor vehicle, you could reach me at FordAndrew24@gmail.com. FordAndrew24@gmail.com.
I ain't mad at you, man. I ain't mad at you.
Yeah, so I'm an entrepreneur, man. Like I said, with the
you
Comedy
was
Stopp.
always good with promoting, man.
Yeah.
You was always good with promoting, man.
Yeah.
This guy had me out in the city passing out flyers, man, at the tender age of 16.
Heck yeah, I remember that.
Put them flyers on them cars, Sean. Did you go to the east side? I'm like, man. Yeah, no, you didn't. I'm out here. I'm on my way. Put them flyers in that car, Sean.
Hey, man. Hey, those were the days, man. That's one thing about it, man. People see the glitz and glamour, and when the lights go up, and the DJ scratching and the building is full, but they don't see the promotion that went into making that happen. Yeah. See, one thing when I opened a comedy club, I really opened it to fine tune my skills as a comedian. But once I got into it, I found out that it's this much show and that much business.
Right.
Yeah. So it was.
I was privy to a lot of stuff, man. Like inside the club, he had me working the sound, the music, and being the DJ when the comedians would be introduced on stage, and I was hitting pause and stop and play on the tape deck.
Exactly, but that's your job was very instrumental to the show flowing right.
Right.
The music sets the show when you make the introduction. So your job was very important, and I appreciate you helping me out with that, man.
Man, I appreciate you, man.
And keep doing what you're doing too, man. I'll be checking you on the radio. You're a professional.
Yes, sir.
Because I know I had some friends of mine that used to talk about you when you were up in Detroit.
Okay.
Up in Detroit, and I think you was out
DC,
east somewhere, DC, Baltimore,
and Virginia.
Virginia, yeah. I said, yeah, I know Sean. Yeah.
He used to say this thing. One of my best friends, man, he still teased me whenever I run into him. I'm like, yeah, I ran into Andrew Ford. He'd be like, yeah, Sean Dawn. He used to say that to me all the time. Just wouldn't say nothing else. Just be saying, Sean
exactly,
Dawn.
Man.
I'm like, what?
Exactly.
Sean Dawn.
I used to have a good time on that morning radio thing, man.
Yeah,
I'm serious. I'd probably do radio again. I'm at a season of my life right now because I think when you live longer, you get more experiences. I'd possibly consider some radio again.
Okay.
You know, even though I know radio is different now.
Yeah, the game is different, man. But we'll see. Maybe we can concoct something up, man. We'll create something.
You never know.
Andrew Ford, appreciate it, my man.
I appreciate your time,
yes, sir.
Sean.
A legend.
And I appreciate
Columbus,
your
Ohio.
flowers.
Yes, sir. Andrew Ford, guys, thank you for tuning in to Sean Anthony Live. Thank you. Peace.